I am at Joann's again. I am going to be picking out a purple fabric for today's video, which is a cosplay video of Rin Nohara in her purple Shuriken kimono. I bought 3 yards of fabric, which was about 46 inches wide. So right now I'm just trying to figure out if I'm going to use the width across the arms and end up with quarter-length sleeves, or if I'm going to do it the other way. And based off the reference photos, I think she has quarter-length sleeves, and I also don't want seams on the shoulders, so this is the pattern that we're going to use. This is a super simple kimono pattern I just took from the internet. It's basically just a T with a slit down the center to wrap it around yourself. So here I have my fabric folded twice. It has that wrist to wrist measurement, which ended up being the 46 inches in width that the fabric was. And then the length I had was from shoulder to where I wanted it to go above the knee, which was about 34 inches. And I added a little bit for seam allowance here. So just to clarify, the full size of my fabric is 46 by 68. And I have folded it on the x-axis and the y-axis. And now what I'm doing here is I'm just marking the width that I want my sleeve to be. So I looked back at those reference photos and it looks like she doesn't have super wide sleeves, but they're not like wrist tight. So I went about 9 inches down. And then using the circumference of my bust divided by 4, because remember this is folded over 4 times, I went ahead and marked where that sleeve ends. And then I drew a line with that chalk out to the bottom length of my outfit. And I also went out 2 extra inches at the bottom just to kind of account for the curvy shape of my body. I don't know about you, but my hips are wider than my bust, so I needed that extra space. Anyways, I'm just cutting those lines that I just drew, and you can see we have a beautiful number 7, which we're going to open up into a T shape, and we're going to sew that inner armpit area on both sides. When I was at Joann's, I also bought a thread that kind of matched the fabric, and it's going to be a super easy straight stitch up and around. There we go. Now I'm just going to mark the midline of that T up at the neck and 3 inches out on either side of that midline mark. And that's the width of my neck. And now I'm just drawing a line down to the center of my bust, kind of lower towards my waist. And this is creating that V neck shape. And I'm curving it a little bit just so that my boobs are a little bit more covered. And now I'm just cutting up to that bust point and cutting that little triangle neck part out. For the back of the neck, I'm just going to do a slight curve. I'm kind of just eyeballing this. And at this point, we have the base of our kimono. So if you don't want to do any extra, you could have just hemmed all of those raw edges and put on your shuriken, but I wanted to make mine look a little bit fancier and kind of just cover a little bit more. So what I'm doing with the extra yard of fabric that I ended up having is I am cutting out some bias tape at a 45-degree angle, and I'm going to try and make this tape about 2 inches thick, and I'm going to put it around the neckline. I just quickly sewed together some strips that I cut, and I am ironing that seam open. And then to make this bias tape, I am folding my fabric in half, ironing that down flat. And now that I have my strip folded in half, I'm just going to fold in those raw edges, and I'm checking to make sure that it's 2 inches thick, and then I'm doing that on both sides. So when I'm ironing the other side, I don't have to check if it's 2 inches. I just have to line it up with the previous fold that I ironed. So here is what that looks like. It took a really long time to make this tape, but it will well be worth it once I stick it onto my kimono. So here is basically what it's going to look like. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to sew down one of those raw edges to the other one as a zigzag pattern, and then I'm going to fold the whole thing over and do a top stitch along that outer side that shows. Whoops, one thing I forgot to do is hem the bottom of my kimono before I did this. So I went ahead and seam ripped a little bit and hemmed this bottom, just folding that raw edge inside itself. And again, you don't have to do the trim bias tape around the neck. You could do this kind of hem everywhere on the kimono if you wanted to. Anyways, back to sewing that on. Here I'm just cutting the little edge and I'm going to fold it underneath so we get a nice little clean bottom of this tape. And there we go. Now our kimono is all nice, clean, and tidied up and ready for some shurikens on it. To make the shurikens, I decided to make them out of heat transfer vinyl. I also could have cut them out of fabric and sewn them on, or I even could have painted them on, but I decided heat transfer vinyl was going to give me the sharpest look and was probably going to be the easiest for me. So I just cut a general shape out of paper to kind of figure out what size I wanted as my shuriken, and then I went onto Silhouette Studio and actually drew up what I was going to be cutting out, and I ended up with 6 shuriken ranging from 5 to 8 inches. The machine missed a few corners, so I just took a blade and cut those myself because it's an easy star shape. And then I went ahead and weeded out any of the vinyl that I was not using. I'm just using a little weeding tool to peel up all of those pieces I don't need. Now I'm just trying to figure out where to place them, because if I looked at those reference photos, the shuriken were not in consistent places. So I kind of just went with an amalgamation of all of them, which ended up with 3 shuriken on the left chest panel, 3 on the back / kind of 1 on the right hip area. For the temperature, I had it at 305 degrees, and I left it on for about 20 seconds, 25, 30 seconds, depending on whether it had stuck all the way down or not. And now I think it's a great time to remind you that I also did another Rin cosplay, one of her other outfits with the pink apron type skirt thing that she wears when she dies, spoiler alert. Whereas this one is what she wears during the tuning exams. And we are almost done. This is the last shuriken that I'm putting on this kimono. So let's take a whole look at the outfit. There it is. You can see the beautiful neckline. Thank you very much. Applauding myself, patting myself on the back. And speaking of the back, let's take a look at the back of it as well. And there we go. That is Rin Nohara's purple shuriken kimono. The following weeks, I will do all of the accessories, including hopefully the belt and the net shirt and shorts that she wears. But until then, that's the end of this video. Thank you for watching.